things about trading Forex is that you don't actually know exactly which trade is going to be a crazy winner or just another loss.
What's up, everybody? We are currently live.
We'll take away the weekly.
Trace back down to orthodox. Then that price is going to be bullish.
Point sort of chasing the market. I was more than happy to stay flat.
Hello everyone. What the kangaroo tell?
Always recommend trading on the 5 minute.
Some of these exotic pairs and pretty steady uptrend, making these higher highs and higher.
Mostly trend following.
The stimulus in a certain way.
Afternoon, everybody. Morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. Hope you're all well. Karachi, how you doing? Denise, good to see you again. Nabil, who else is here? Nabil, good to see you. Okay, let's talk markets. Now, I'll get to your pairs. I don't have many on the watch list today. I've got to do a little bit of a shorter stream because I'm going out for dinner tonight. So in Dubai here, our weekends are normally Friday, Saturday, but for me personally, it's obviously Saturday, Sunday. So my girlfriend works, and we only get one real day together. So we're going out for dinner tonight. Anyway, that's why our stream will be a little bit shorter. But anyway, let's talk about the SPX. Good to see you too, Nabil. So this is interesting because at this point in time here, we have to think about coming from this point in time. We have to think about SPX to the downside. Now, obviously, yesterday's news came out, and we got this 4-hour hammer bar on a bit of volume, as you probably expect on that news coming out. So I saw this bar, and I was thinking, right, this looks a decent complex corrective. ABC, hammer bar here at C, roughly around those stop locations. I thought we were moving down. Now, this is one of the reasons why, you're waiting for that market's reaction to the news rather than the news itself, because we rallied from there. And this section here, I was saying on my morning stream, that was big for me. So if we got a break and close above this wicked candle, for me, it would look good for upside movement. Now, we know stocks are long. Stocks have been resilient. But that confirmation on this particular bar was a bit of an indication for me that stocks may want to move up here. Because, firstly, this was the 61.8. So the 61.8 fib level is kind of your line in the sand for trend continuation. And the fact we've broken above it didn't mean that we might come down, because we still had this resistance area as well. So there is barriers to the SPX moving to the upside. However, it was a good sign. So, when that's probably why we're seeing that strength in the CAD, we're seeing that strength in the Aussie, we're seeing that strength in New Zealand, we're seeing the weakening off in the yen, we're seeing the weakening off in the Swiss, etc., seeing the weakening off in the US dollar, because this stock market is now pushing. And the fact I think we've broken through this area, again, gives people a little bit of confidence that, stocks are now starting to move up and we can start buying those commodity currencies. People are getting a little bit more confident. So even though we've got some barriers here, this is certainly a good sign. And if we close above this section here, I think that continued play of buying the Aussie against the yen, buying those commodity currencies, I guess those risk-off currencies still make sense, and that's why you do your risk sentiment. You're trying to figure out, okay, is it risk on or risk off? And a close above here would certainly be a good indicator for that. If you look at the daily, one of the things I said was watch out for a potential morning star here. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you and say my bias was short, because the smaller time frames it was short. However, we got a pattern, and this is why we do simple candlestick patterns, that could indicate that this market wanted to rise on this support area. Buyers coming in when it tried to push that market down. So we're coming back to this trend line now. Let's just see how it reacts. I don't want to go full blown risk on. Right, on these smaller time frames, if we see a push above this 200, above this resistance area, then yeah, you could probably go and say, okay, I'm more confident with that risk on nature. But we've not got that yet. However, it does look good. US Open looks good. Smaller time frames look good. So if you have positions on, I think, Denise, you've got CAD yen on. you know, if this stock market continues to rise, that could be a really good trade. Now, if we look at the dollar, I'm talking intraday. Again, you need that confirmation, but you know, intraday it looks pretty good. Now, if you look at the dollar, this again, you look at that chart straight away, and you're seeing a big bearish engulfer potentially forming here. The day's not finished. That's important to note. We've got to wait for that daily closure before we can make a proper kind of prediction on the dollar. But if it does close like this, you could possibly expect to see maybe tomorrow, maybe start of next week, some weakness coming into that dollar. Now, that's not to say sell the dollar, because we are still coming from this decent move to the upside. If we take a bigger time frame view, the dollar still looks relatively bullish, right? Coming from all the way back here. But we could see a slight weakening off potentially before something like this. Now, we could see a big fall, obviously, but just be aware that we have been on this uptrend and not go full blown. Okay, I'm going to sell the dollar right now. So this will be a bearish sign. My bias is potential dollar weakness coming in, certainly for tomorrow. But just shows you the effect. This is why I don't like trading news. Look at this. Massive spike down, massive spike up, and now we're coming back down. You know, I always like to let this settle down. I don't know how you can make money from this, you know, from big news events. This just seems impossible to me. I don't know whether you lot or you watching did make money, but for me, I mean, it's just impossible to predict that kind of stuff, right? It's a red or black scenario. It's gambling, essentially. So I always like to wait for that market's reaction. So yeah, dollar looks a little bit bearish, I would say. If you've got a setup selling that dollar against potentially the Aussie, against the New Zealand, against the CAD, for me, makes sense. Okay, watch this today. There's only two pairs, and I'll go into your guys' pairs. Firstly, the one I've been looking at for ages, this China 50. I know we're talking about SPX to the upside. However, these Chinese shares are a little bit bearish. All right, if we look at that 4-hour chart, we're kind of breaking through now to the downside. So my setup here is on the daily, and I'm looking for our cup with handle within our cup with handle. And possibly we're getting that here. So if I zoom in, we're coming from this section here. So we're going with that trend, right? And we're getting a potential cup with handle within a cup with handle. If we get this bar closing like this, and we get another bearish bar tomorrow, on Monday morning or Sunday night for you guys in America across the pond, I'll take that trade. Stops above there. I like this, you know, going with the trend. I don't care what the SPX is doing. I'm looking at what I see on this particular chart, and it looks bearish. You know, falling pressure into this support zone. We've knocked on that door a few times, and we're potentially knocking on it again. The more times you knock on these levels, I believe, the less powerful they are. Because eventually, you think about markets have a memory, right? So markets have a memory. People remember the fact that if you're buying it here, you're getting less and less profit, right? So they'll be a bit wary if it comes back down thinking, well, maybe this level is not going to hold anymore. So I like the China 50. This is probably my favorite pair on the watch list. So if I get a decent bearish day tomorrow, I'll put my breakout order underneath that area, put my stop location in here, and I'll take that to the downside if it does break. China 50 I do like. And the only other one that I like today, it's been a very quiet week for me, is USD Swiss potentially. So USD Swiss, I think I talked about this as a breakout trade. Up with handle, volatility, contraction, push through the area. So this area, this level is holding right now. It's holding, but I would need this to turn into a potential complex corrective because of this price action. So I would never take a breakout retest with this type of price action because it looks to be more like a V reversal than a breakout retest. So because we've got price action like this, it would need to turn into a complex to kind of digest this initial move. You know, so for me in ABC, the 20 period is not caught up yet. So I need a 20 period catch up to be able to take that to the upside. So USD Swiss I still like. We could potentially be doing two weak currencies playing against each other, which is what normally you wouldn't want to do. However, if the setup's there, then the setup's there. So as long as we hold that level, it could be a potential trade to the upside. So the other ones I had oil, but I think oil's already gone. Oil here on the daily chart is already gone. Very similar to USD Swiss, where I couldn't take. So I'm looking at this as a V reversal. Pull back to that channel, break through. This as a retest is not something that I like. So you can see this price action here. Even though it is a retest, there's no massive catalyst for me to get in. It's more of a doji candle rather than a hammer or an engulfer, albeit it did come on higher volume. So I was looking for the same thing as USD Swiss, for this to turn into a complex and give me something in here to be able to go long. Hey, Victoria, hope you're well. Didn't give us that. It's broken above the highs. So in terms of a complex corrective, I've got to take that off. That for me is something that's been happening quite a lot. You know, I've been putting pairs on my watch list and they're just going without me. You know, I'm not really seeming to get that retest, to get that real setup to get me in. For example, this is what's happened quite a lot recently. It's not a bad thing because, you know, pairs are going in the direction that I thought. However, I'm just not on board with them. Unfortunately, I'm kind of missing out on them. So Euro Pound was a setup I was looking at as well. Actually, one of the guys that follow me actually told me about this one. I missed it. And he said, look at Euro Pound. And this is certainly one that was a setup. So we look at the setup, V reversal, nice little accumulation period. Another one that just massively broke through. The reason why this was good is if we look at our daily chart, for a higher time frame confluence, we always want to have a higher time frame confluence, and you got it with this bar here. So this hammer bar, again, very simple indicator, right? That price may be rejecting off this area and possibly we getting a reaction, and that's exactly what we got. So with that context, the V reversal, nice accumulation. Look at this nice accumulation, and also look at the volume signature here. We're getting lowering volume during that accumulation. Fair enough, it is over Asia. So granted, you're expecting lower volume over Asia, but higher volume during that breakout. That's exactly what we want to see when we're taking breakout trades. Higher volume during that break, and that's what we got. But it just moved without me, unfortunately. Just moved without me. I'm not going to get FOMO and go in because I'm like, oh, I want this trade. It's not quite set up, but I think it's going to go down. I want to be in it. No, I have to make sure I'm sticking to my strategy. I'm sticking to my setup, but this wasn't a setup. Don't you put alerts on? No, no, because I know what rough time it's going to set up, Victoria. So, I can't take breakouts on anything less than the 4 hour. So this is what I mean by I missed them. It's not that I missed them that I wasn't at the charts. It's that I missed them because they don't fit my strategy. So if this was a 4 hour chart, I could take that breakout. But because it's a 30-minute, I couldn't. So I would need a breakout retest for me to be able to take this trade to the downside. Just simply because when I'm back tested, I found that I'm less profitable on these smaller time frames because you get caught in fake outs quite often on the small time frames. And basically, I'm more profitable trading breakouts on the 4 hour plus. So yeah, I didn't actually miss it. I just couldn't get into it. It didn't fit my strategy. Okay, let's have a look at your trades. So what we've got here, Denise, GA and EA to the downside. Now, I'm pretty sure off the bat, I like that ideas. The Aussie's kind of getting a little bit of strength. However, so this 4 hour chart, the only thing about GA, right? This is the only thing about GA is we're kind of getting, I don't know if any remember me talking about the context of impulse, loss of momentum, harder reset. So we could be getting this on GA. So we've got our impulse, possible loss of momentum here, and maybe we're getting our harder reset. Now we have had a decent bearish bar here. We're struggling to get above the moving averages. So that doesn't mean that this impulse, loss of momentum, harder reset is going to work. However, we haven't broken below this wick. So until we do, there could be an argument there that GA could pull to the upside. Even though I like the bias of buying the Aussie, right? Because I think if stocks push, then the Aussie should get some strength, and you probably expect to see this go to the downside. But there is an ABC there, and it actually could potentially be an ABC 1, 2. So if we've got A here, B here, and C on this hammer, this is 1 and this is 2. So A, B, C, 1, 2. Sometimes these can move to the upside. I'm not saying that's going to happen, right? I'm not saying that's going to happen because we've had a decent bearish bar here, and again, we are below the moving averages. I like the bias of GA to the downside, but just looking at that chart, we have to remember we are coming from this push to the upside. So just be aware of that, Denise, on GA. Again, we take a longer time frame view. The path of least resistance is still technically to the upside, albeit you could be getting this, right? You could be getting this, and we have broken through that daily swing. So we've got a lower low here. So it's a mixed messages. There's a few mixed messages there. I guess sitting on the fence would be the easiest way for me to say it. So I would just be wary of that 4 hour, to be honest. EA looks better though. EA looks much better. I think that's a nicer trade. Again, you look at this corrective on that daily. We're kind of breaking out of that corrective. Simple trend theory. If it does break and close below this 20, below this kind of trend line, yeah, you think that looks quite good for movement to the downside. The 4 hour certainly looks bearish. 4 hour definitely looks bearish. I like EA to the downside better than GA to the downside. So I like that idea. Yeah. This EA definitely looks bearish. That's for sure. I don't want to say that's for sure. That's the wrong way to say it, but I like EA rather than GA. You're long on CAD yen. I went long last night around Asian Open. CAD yen. Oh well, that's a good trade, Denise. If you're long on Asian Open, you're basically long from there, right? I presume your stops would be roughly around down here, unless you're trading a smaller time frames. But that again looks nice. We put a trend line here. You might get a slight reaction, or you mean you're kind of getting a slight reaction now off that descending trend line. We have moved quite well to the upside, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a reaction here, Denise, because I mean, you look at the 20, it is still quite far from price action. So I wouldn't be surprised if this pulls back slightly. It could go on, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does pull back. And you know, maybe there's the option there to take partial profits. You know, we've tagged that trend line, which, like I said, you expect a reaction from. And that's why I like taking some money off the table when the market makes it available. So pay yourself when the market makes it available. And at this point, if this closes at a doji, I know we're closing above the 200, but we have come from a decent move to the upside. So, you know, for me, if I was in that if I was in that trade, I might look at taking profits. But well done. Good profitable trade. Well done. Pound Swiss. Okay, I'll do pound Swiss, and then unfortunately I'm going to have to get off, guys, or else my girlfriend will kill me. Pound Swiss. Pound Swiss. Intraday charts looks good. Smaller time frame charts look good. We're closing above that 200. Push the upside. Maybe we're in a complex corrective here. Waiting for that 20 period to catch up. Smaller time frames look pretty bullish. Like I said, with the SPX, if it does decide to close above and push on, you'd expect the pound Swiss to rise. Pound's been relatively strong as well. However, we can't discount what we've got on the daily. We still have this big bearish engulfer. So you could be getting your decent morning star on that 200, which would be a bullish sign. But we have come from this decent drop. So I think I like the idea of pound Swiss to the upside. Certainly if it breaks and closes above this area, you know, we talk about a potential swing here to trend on this 4 hour. If we break and close above this area, that would give me a better indication. But momentum is certainly right now to the upside. I would just be waiting for that added confirmation. A fib on it. So we put a Fibonacci on it from the start to the bottom. We're roughly around that 50% area, which is coinciding with this resistance zone. Now, you look at the pullback, because of this bar, very similar to the DXY. Actually, if I show you the DXY, and I'll relate it back to this. So if I show you this, when we're in this pullback in the DXY here, okay, notice how we got this bar. Okay, so up until this bar, we've got to be thinking bearishness because of how price action is. We're rejecting off that 20. We're coming down from here. However, this candle changes sentiment a little bit. Okay, and look at the results that produced. We kind of pushed on from there. Now, if we go back to pound Swiss, I don't know whether you're long or short, Nabil. I'm hoping that you'll be long. My directional bias right now would be long. But again, we can't discount that we have come from this side. However, what I mean by that pullback is you got price action here that indicates we're in pullback mode, and then you get this big 4-hour, big bullish bar on a bit of volume coming in, which changes sentiment a little bit to, well, this is still in that 40-60 box pullback territory, no doubt about it. But in terms of price action, remember, I always think price action is king. This changes little things to, changes. Consider pullbacks here. Like we look at all the pullbacks, doesn't really look like this. So my bias, if this closes above the 50, above this area, then it might not be a bad trade to the upside, to be honest with you. So yeah, don't mind pound Swiss to the upside. Right, any more before I have to go? Anything else? Any charts you guys want me to look at? By the way, if any of you gold traders, so I'm doing a video with A1 Trading now on gold, a weekly gold report and a weekly silver report. I can actually show you that here. Here on A1 Trading, this is the gold and silver report. If you watch that video on a Monday, I don't always get it right, but I think I've got it pretty much spot on this week, where I was saying wait for the pullback and look for a catalyst to continue to the downside. So I'll be doing those reports on a Monday, and I'm also doing one tonight on the A1 trend scanner. But in that report, I essentially said look for that pullback. So we were here at this point in time. We pushed on. I put a fib on it from this to here. We got a pullback, a rejection. This was your indication that gold potentially wanted to fall, and that's what we're getting. So added confirmation would be a break below this level, but gold and silver look pretty good to the downside, I have to say. I don't think it'll break. I don't think this will break right now. I think possibly a little digestion here, but gold and silver certainly look not bad to the downside. But yeah, keep an eye out for those videos on A1 Trading for if you are a gold trader, for a weekly outlook. Like I said, I'm not always going to get it right, but yeah, I think I got it pretty much right that time. Anyway. Hey, Shivat, how you doing? You're joining at the end. I've got to go, mate. I've got to go. So it's a quicker stream today. I'll be back on Monday, guys. And remember, trade safe. Thanks, everyone. Take care.